to get an opportunity to talk to you today, especially with all these great AI professionals and smart folks in the audience really focused in on the future and where we're headed. But before I start, I want to talk to you about a little bit about in the past. I want to go to January 29th, when the world was calm. In fact, we had just got done with all of our New Year's resolutions. We were talking about all the great things we're going to do, and then all of a sudden, everything changed. You had playgrounds with no children. You had tourist locations with no tourists. You had airports with no travelers. And we as a tech community, don't worry, we said we got this, right? We've gone to all these great conferences and we've talked about digitization and agile business models and next generation collaboration. And what did we deliver? When the world stopped moving, stopped being able to say hello, we said, we got it. Oh, sorry, you're on mute. No, you're on mute. You're on mute. That was the experience that we delivered. And when you think about the cost, what's at stake? What do we lose? Well, if you think about children, 6 months to 2 years of education lost. You think about the economic impact, $4 trillion. Or what about mental health? 35% increase. These are the things that we saw and we experienced. And so when you think about where we've been and what we've done, it's our call to action as a AI, as a technologist, as a technology community to change. And we have to understand that real time, what we always thought was so great, real-time information, it's too late. The damage is done. Real-time and smart cities meant that we were working with one-time transactions, stagnant learning. We have to move to a much more relationship-based, accelerated learning model. So we worked many months, many years on creating what we call the cognitive blueprint. And this is overly simplified, but this is what we've built and are building. The infrastructure layer provides you with digital air. I mean, you walk into a place or a building and you have connectivity. And then you get to the core AI services. You can think of those as more of what Netflix is to movies, kind of core AI services is to data. And you have all these great applications on top. Now here's the thing. That's the easy stuff. That's the easy stuff. What's really hard is what we call the experience paradigm. That's what we have to solve. You see, algorithms are great, excellent at solving efficiency problems. But the world's problems today are far more than efficiency. So think about you go to a grocery store. And you're eating in line and you're checking out. You got two choices. There's this highly efficient self-checkout to the left. Highly efficient, right? And then there's the people checkout to the right. 4 or 5 unmanned machines to the left, and 1 or 2 people over here to the right. Where are you going? In the room, raise a hand. Who's going over to the automated self-checkout? Who loves that? Okay. Who's going to talk to the people to the right? Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. We got a Generation Z and millennial audience. That's good. Or those that want to be Generation G and millennials, right? Why is that? What's the two differences? Well, if you want to be more efficient, you can go to the left. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you've been locked in your room for the last year and a half, you haven't interacted with somebody, you want to go to that right. Why? Because they may tell you, hey, you know what? How you doing today? An exchange, a human exchange, wow. Or they may give you a recommendation around a thing you're purchasing. This idea of the experience paradigm is critical. How do you solve for what is human, for what is feeling? And so when you think about this, there are 3 golden rules that if you want to solve for this paradigm, we've learned that you have to address. Let's talk about the first one. First one is very simple. Without trust, you have no data. Without data, you cannot create value. You need to manage trust. An end-to-end consent management platform. Love the question when you talk about cognitive city. What are you going to do? How are you going to get us to give you your data? Newsflash, you already do. Newsflash, you already do, right? You think you're clicking on that website, says consent, accept, you just see the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what you just consented to all beneath it. The issue is exposing you to who has your data, how is it being used, and giving you a common architecture, a way to understand. We know you don't know all the things about medical data, should you release it or not, so you got to be able to get an expert opinion, whether that's AI or whether you simply choose to defer to one of your doctors and accept what they have. Okay, golden rule number 2. AI. Man, AI is a people-first venture. It's a people business. Remember, you get trust. Where do you get trust from? You get trust from people. They give you data. Data creates value. Why do I say that? Because if you are in this room, you have to understand the difference that is required between being in a diverse room, a diverse community, a diverse world, and one that is inclusive. See, diversity is simply the potential to create value. You have a diverse group of people in the audience. But if there is no interaction, if there is no full participation, no value can be created. So when you think about AI, you're talking about how does it work if you are without sight? How does it work if you cannot hear? How does it work if you have a disability? These are the things that have to be interwoven into the fundamental psyche of what we are developing. Okay, so now, if you're with me that you have to drive an inclusive environment, that AI is really people-centric, by show of hands again, how many millennials do we have in the audience? Millennials? Okay, very good. How about Generation Zs? Okay, and just people who want to be millennial or Generation Zs. Okay, that's better. I'm gonna need the millennials and Generation Zs to help us out on this one now. I'm gonna need you to help us out. Because I just told you, by definition, you have to create an inclusive world. Well, that means, by definition, the physical world is limited. There's only so many people you can get to engage in a physical setting. Therefore, the physical is an add-on, to the digital. I'm not saying you're gonna get rid of the physical world. No, of course not. But what I'm telling you is, when you think about creating something physically, that should be to enhance the digital. Because you need to drive inclusion. You need to reach to everybody. By definition, the physical world is limited. I can only have so many people in this auditorium, by definition. There's a whole lot of people that want to participate, right? You understand where I'm going? So, you know this intuitively. If you think about financially, think about the assets of companies. What's the number one asset on their balance sheet now? Is it physical assets or intangible? Intangible. 90% of the assets are intangible assets. Think about some of the top companies. They didn't go out and build a building first. They created a digital platform. And then they started moving into stores to get you to augment. You know this inherently, but again, it's a little difficult to get your arms around, right? To get your head around it. Okay, so if those are the 3 golden rules, how do we make this real? Okay, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite people on the planet. His name is Malcolm. Malcolm is my 6-year-old nephew. And if I mention Metaverse to Malcolm, he gets crazily excited. Because to him, Metaverse is a game. And when you talk to a lot of people, and you mention the word Metaverse, they also come up with great gaming, you know, AR, VR, kind of stuff. That's great. But I just told you that by definition, the physical is an add-on to digital because you need to drive a full set of participation and inclusion. To us autonomous, the metaverse is not a game. The metaverse represents the potential for the world to continue to move, which is what COVID took away from us. So when I say the metaverse, I'm specifically talking about an unstoppable way for humanity to connect, to feel, to learn. In other words, for us to be human. Now, there's lots of examples of this. I'm just going to go through a couple, right? Lots of examples of this. So let's talk about the first one. I love this one. Eternal Notre Dame. Amazing church, amazing architecture, beautiful building, beautiful building. And when the fire happened, some really creative people said, we still wanted the world to engage. We want to be able to ensure that we can touch people while this is being constructed. So they created a metaverse experience to allow you to visit and see what it was like during construction. They actually paid for 30% of the building, but they gave you that inclusive experience. Great example of a practical application of what I'm talking about. And then right in the middle of COVID, right in the middle of it, the largest venue, the biggest concert in the world could hold 250,000 people. That's it. Remember, we're all probably in month 4 of trying to figure out what we can do in a house that's creative without going outside. Travis Scott, right, said, hey, I got an idea. How do I put on a concert that's bigger than 250,000 people? So he said, no problem. I'm going to use the metaverse type technologies and I'm going to go on and put on a concert Fortnite. And guess what happened? He spent 250,000 to 27 million people engaged in that concert. That is the power of what I'm saying. And to bring it even more closer to home, let's talk about the line. The line is a marvel. 170 kilometers long, 500 meters tall, 200 meters wide, 9 million residents, and a footprint only 2% the size of a traditional city. Great marvel of technology. How are we building the line? Well, one of the core elements in the line is you can walk to every aspect of the line, vertical living, within 5 minutes. Well, how do you know that if you haven't done it? Well, we've done it. Well, how can you do it if you haven't built it yet? Well, we're using metaverse technologies, Web 3.0 technologies to model as we create. These are the things that are possible. And as we move beyond that, then you get into NEOM as the first multiverse city merging physical and digital together, allowing you to be able to connect not one-to-one, but one-to-many, and creating that type of value. And now, let's talk about the next evolution. So that's great, one-to-many, but what's the next step? Okay, education. Now, here's the interesting thing about education. When you think about what's happening, especially when you think about the youth and the kids, when they go to a particular program, they are struggling to be engaged around that program. They're struggling with the concept. You have kids that sit in school, and it's hard for them to pick up the learning. I learned this the hard way. I had the opportunity to watch my 6-year-old nephew, Malcolm. And my sister forgot to tell me that when she said take him to school, I was thinking a traditional school still in my mind. What I didn't realize was I was about to experience what many young parents have experienced, and that's way past my time, where you have to occupy a 6-year-old kid in front of a TV screen trying to engage in a video conference-based education. Oh. And oh, by the way, we're going to do that for 45 minutes at a time. Oh my God. The average attention span of a kid is only 2 to 3 times their age. That's it, right? 6-year-old kid, you got maybe 12 minutes, and that's if you really, really act. I mean, you got to be working to get those 12 minutes, right? You got to work. So I took that same kid, and I said, okay, now Malcolm, we're going to play a game. Let me tell you, this is what happened. This is what happened, man. This is what happened. He was so happy. What? And all of a sudden, that kid that couldn't focus, he was like a zombie. Into it, understanding it, the ability to gamify, or in other words, to make every educational experience like a field trip. One way, direction that we're moving into. Okay, advice. Being able to get talent teleportation. It costs us $64 billion a year because we get the wrong advice. Because we can't find that right person to give us the information that we ultimately need. Another great metaverse application that we're seeing as we move on. One of my favorites, mixed reality immersion. So people say, well, Joseph, how are you going to get someone in New York to come to Neil? What does that look like? They're just going to figure out, oh, this is great. Let me get on this plane and travel 25 hours to see if this is a cool place. No. So probably what happens is they hear about Neom, and it's kind of cool, but I don't want to get on a plane. I want to travel 20 hours. Where do I go? Oh, well, let me go to this mixed reality Xverse that I've heard about. Okay, so let me get on this. And then I say, oh, great, I can buy some NFT content. I can create my digital apartment. I can make it and shape it how I want it to be. You're engaging with people that are similar to your interests. You're loving it. And then all of a sudden, we give you a note. We say, hey, guess what? We're going to build the real thing. We say, are you interested? You go, oh, that sounds really cool. But you know what, though? Still, man, that's a long way to fly. If I want to buy this thing, if I want to go to the next step. I want to upgrade my subscription. I want to upgrade my subscription so I can show up as a hologram. So I show up as a hologram. And now I get to see if that Joseph guy was really right about the humidity. Let me talk to someone in the sales office. Is it really non-humid? Those are the types of experiences that we can enable. And when you think about the monetization opportunities, remember, this all happens because of the movement between physical and virtual. That's where the monetization happens. Metaverse is not physical, it's not digital. It's the combination of both. Not one website, not a physical environment, it's the interaction between the two that creates the value opportunities. My wife and I recently completed a trip to Dubai. How many have been to Dubai? You been to Dubai? Very good. I got a couple in Dubai. It's awesome. Okay. So if any of you work for Gucci, does anybody work here for Gucci? If you do, you're going to have a really good quarter. Because my wife is going to make sure you had a really good quarter. Let me tell you, if you look on the income statement, I'm sure there's going to be a little note that says Lori Bradley visited Dubai and went to your store. So here's the thing. Not only did she buy physical items, what did she buy? She bought the digital versions. Gucci is a great thing. They have the real purse you can buy, and then you can buy for 20% more, you get to own the NFT of that purse. And they're buying it. They're buying it. These are the cognitive opportunities that we're talking about engaging. Okay, so if you want to buy into this notion that the metaverse is a way for us to move, to connect, much bigger than a game, how do you get started? 3 ground rules. 3 ground rules. Number one experience at a time. Don't try to create the whole metaverse world. Come up with 25 experiences. No, focus on one and then go from there, build from there. Understand it's the duality of the physical and the virtual that make a metaverse. You can't just create a video game and say that's metaverse. No, you can't just build this cool city and say that's metaverse. No, the metaverse has to have interaction between the two, okay? And this last one, probably the most important. This notion of diversity and moving to inclusion means that everything the metaverse touches becomes a platform by definition. If you apply the metaverse to a city, that city no longer follows traditional economics, it follows platform economics. That means the more people that participate, the more valuable. That means you have an opportunity to ingrain, to infuse inclusion and eliminate divides in the beginning, because that is what drives value for the platform. It is so fundamentally important. And it's critical. The reason I talk to you about this in an AI conference is because, quite frankly, we as world technologists, we as people, we as humans, have gotten far too comfortable with despair. We didn't stop dreaming. We stopped it. In fact, it's not even cool anymore. We're okay with these pictures. We're fine with it. Like another day. Way too comfortable with despair. It's become a normal day of life. You can't accept this anymore. You got to move beyond this. Way too comfortable. And when you think ultimately about where we're headed and what's happening, there has always been and will continue to be a very, very fine line between radical innovation and wishful thinking. I need you to push that line. I need you to go right up to the edge of that line, because that's who we're doing it for. That's who we're doing this for. It's not a game. It's not buzzwords. We're doing it for the next generation. That's what we're trying to create. And so when you go to this conference, I don't want you to worry about what you don't know. I want you to be bold. I want you to be courageous. I want you to challenge each and every day what this world tells you to be true. Be a change maker. Go make it happen. Thank you, guys.
Joseph, thank you so much. We'll keep you on stage. We've got about 2 minutes, so we've got time to take just one or two very quick questions from the audience. Raise your hands very quickly. If you have one, we have one at the front here. We'll get a microphone to you, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, no problem.
Hello, I'm doing international exchanges and trainings, and I would like to ask if would you be like to be involved in this kind of possibility in coming years. Are you interested?
Yes. Okay, so what would it be like to, I think, be in the world of NEOM in the next couple of years? Or what would it be like to work in this environment? First thing is, it is an environment where, as I said earlier, you have to own the ability to gain information from others. That means you have to own the idea of inclusion. If you invite 5 people to a meeting and only 2 people are talking, that's on you. You have to commit to the notion that in order to be valuable, you have to be inclusive. Second thing is you have to understand that while this is a technology conference, and let me be clear, I am a technologist. I love technology. But you know what? All the answers are about to be known. Watch your kids do their homework. Who are they talking to? Have you seen your kids do their homework? Maybe you are not young enough to have some kids, but if you watch your kids do homework, who are they talking to? Who are they asking for questions? Siri. That's how they're doing their homework. The answer is known. The value is in knowing what question to ask. That means rise of the humanities. All these social psychology majors, man, let me tell you, you're about to become a very, very, very popular group of people in the age of tech. Because the issue is going to be codeless programming, no-code programming. It's going to be, how do I structure the question so that I can create value and change, ultimately, a core paradigm? So those are 2 things that you're going to see that are, I think, different skill sets than we typically talk about as we think about what's happening and what's life like if you want to work autonomous or at NEOM.
Fantastic question, great answer. We unfortunately have to wrap it up there, but let's give a round of applause to Joseph Bradley, CEO of Autonomous.